Ms. Kathleen McCarthy. She's one of our lovely mental health therapists for the district. We also have Lindsay Rasmussen. She is a teacher on special assignment, otherwise known as a TOSA for our special education department. We have Miss Julia Siegel. She's our orthopedic impairment specialist for the district. I'm Hillary Talmadge. I'm one of the special education program specialists in the district. And then Carrie Cooper will be joining us for the latter half of this workshop today. So as we start, we want to start with a mindful check-in. So I'm going to do my best to be mindful after this long day. What you want to do is really check in with your thoughts and your feelings that you have at this moment. Maybe you had a very stressful day. Maybe it wasn't as stressful, but you have things coming up tomorrow that are on your mind. We want you to stop, notice what's running through your mind and what emotions are present. After that, just be aware of any tension you have in your body. And then after you're able to kind of check in with yourself, think about that tension, think about those thoughts, rate where you are in terms of your comfort and your tension level on the scale over to the right. So a 0 at the bottom would be you're feeling really good. You don't have a lot of tension. You feel like you have a lot of good thoughts going through your mind. Whereas a 10 is you're feeling very elevated. Maybe you have you're feeling a lot of tension and you're carrying it in your body. Maybe you have a lot of negative thoughts or just thoughts in general that are keeping you from being mindful. So just kind of take a minute to think about where you are on that scale. And so today, what we're going to be doing, this is kind of just a general agenda of today. We're going to talk about the importance of self-care. We're going to go over what mindfulness is. And then we're going to go into some actual little mindfulness techniques that you can use throughout the day to help you. And then we hopefully have time for our closing activity, taking in the good gratitude practice. And we're hoping to have enough time at the end for questions and answers as well.
Okay, hi there. So the first, well, if you were with us at the December workshop where we talked about anxiety and stress management, this may look familiar to you. The image on the left is a self-care report card, and it's a way for you to check in with yourself. It's a really helpful visual to, either rate or grade yourself, and it can help identify what areas you might need to improve on and what areas you are doing well in. And then from there, you might choose an area to focus on. So you might think, what's one small change I can make in the coming week to improve my grade? Like the first one, maybe you're not getting enough sleep. So you might decide to set a reminder for, let's say, 15 minutes earlier for the next 5 days. But it's just important to kind of see where you are and also focus on what you can do to improve rather than what you can't do. So just, kind of making small changes here and there. The image on the left says self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. And I thought this is a really nice quote. We can't give what we don't have. And it's really difficult to be available to others when we don't take care of ourselves first, which is easier said than done, but it is important. And it's also important to understand that our kids, our students also need self-care. They can become overwhelmed and burned out differently than adults. So they don't necessarily have the skills to manage their fatigue, especially during this pandemic. It has become harder to access some of those self-care needs for our students, such as playing with other kids, attending school, getting enough rest or sleep if they're worried. So all of these additional consequences from the pandemic, you may see an increase in a child's emotional outburst or shutdown. So you can use, the report card with yourself or your student or your child if you find that's appropriate. And our next slide is, this is a really nice definition of what mindfulness is. So mindfulness is really about paying attention on purpose in the here and now without judgment. So it's about viewing life experiences through a neutral observer position. And with those mindfulness practices, individuals can notice their thoughts, emotions, and even their physical sensations in a non reactive way. That's basically what mindfulness is. Next slide. So this is a short 2 to 3 minute video on why mindfulness is a superpower. So we are going to show the whole video. Really quick disclaimer, it does have some inappropriate language, nothing too crazy, but we did want to give you a heads up.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so like I said, I think that does a really nice job of describing what mindfulness is. I think the driving example is something we can all relate to. so, okay, thank you. And then Hillary, there you go. Okay, perfect.
There we go. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Okay, so mindfulness is something that really has been scientifically proven to improve the brain's optimal functioning. And studies show that with daily practicing of this skill, because it's definitely a skill that takes practice and learning, mindfulness rewires the brain and decreases the areas of the brain affected by toxic stress. So looking at this slide, they've outlined it well of what are the benefits of mindfulness. And if you look at the first one, really, if our students can start learning how to be mindful and in the moment and have that buffer before they react, it has been shown to improve academic performance, decreased absenteeism or being, chronically absent, and then also suspensions. For all of us, whether we're a student, whether we're a student age or whether we're adults like us, it can improve focus, attention, and concentration. It really does improve emotional regulation, and it helps us with that impulse control before we react, as we saw in the video. It also helps with increased empathy and compassion for others and understanding of others' feelings. And then the big one here that we can really relate to is that decreased stress and anxiety that I'm sure we all have, and it's been increased over the last year with all of our situations. It can help increase a sense of calm and emotional resilience and just an overall improved self-awareness and health. So as you can see, there's also some other physical health studies that have shown that increased mindfulness does have an effect not only on stress, but on lowering blood pressure, chronic pain. It can help with sleep. We all know when we're stressed, sleep sometimes is the first thing to go. And then other certain stomach issues. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this and practicing it, which is why we want to kind of go over those, some easy ways that we can incorporate this into our life. So I'll let Kathleen take over. Oh, no, oh yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk about the autonomic nervous system and how it relates to mindfulness. So there's two branches of the autonomic nervous system. There's the sympathetic nervous system, and that's what's on top of the screen in red. And think of that as a brake or a gas pedal. So when you push the gas, everything speeds up. So the sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight response to stress. So it increases energy, it increases alertness, heart rate, blood pressure. And then the second branch is the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's on the bottom in blue. That's the rest and digest response. So think of that of the brake. So what that does is that it puts on the brake of the fight or flight response and brings down the energy, calms the organs after that adrenaline release to the response to stress and danger. And it helps the body to rest, to digest, relax, calm, heal. It also helps with social connection. And mindfulness also, so the two branches basically, they work together to bring balance in your nervous system. But mindfulness also does that. It helps to balance our nervous system when our stress reaches outside our windows of tolerance. And so the normal range is what's addressed in green. When we go outside those dotted lines in red and blue, that's when mindfulness can come in and help us. There's also this thing called the vagus nerve, and I don't know if you've heard of it. If you are big on yoga, you've probably heard of the vagus nerve, but it plays a large role in mindfulness, and it's the key to activating the parasympathetic nervous system and activating a common response in our body. What it is, it's the largest cranial nerve that originates at the base of our skull, and it travels down our neck, our heart, our lung, and our digestive system. And it carries information to and from our brain and our organs for the point of calming things down. So it's connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. All of our organs except our adrenals, because our adrenals is a function of the sympathetic nervous system, because the adrenals are in charge of getting us prepared for fight or flight, and so pumping out the adrenaline. So depending on how well your body responds to stress determines your vagal tone. And your vagal tone, we'll talk about later, is determined by tracking your heart rate and your breathing rate. And I'll go more into that later, but what's important to know is that the more vagal tone that you have, the more your body can relax and recover. So it has more of a parasympathetic response to rest and digest. The lower vagal tone you have, the more prone you are to disease and inflammation. And so what does vagal tone have to do with mindfulness? Well, mindfulness activates the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which causes us to rest and relax. So a lot of the mindfulness practices that we'll be talking about today in our presentation utilize the parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve, such as yoga, tapping, breathing, singing, humming, massage, meditation, and biofeedback. So we're going to be going more into a few of those in our next slides. Okay, so mindfulness is a buffer between a triggering event and a reaction. So without mindfulness, something happens and we react. But with mindfulness, something happens, and then there's a buffer, there's mindfulness, and then we get to respond. And so what happens, there's lots of things, good things that happen in the brain with mindfulness. It deactivates the sympathetic nervous system, so the gas pedal, and it activates brake pedal, okay? It increases activity in our hippocampus, and our hippocampus is responsible for learning and long-term memory. It also decreases our impulsive reactions in our prefrontal cortex, which is right here. And there's been numerous studies that have been done on mindfulness. There's one study that was done for 8 weeks, and brain matter actually increased 27% after 30 minutes of mindfulness practice during those 8 weeks. And what happened was that the gray matter in the participants in the brain's amygdala, the amygdala is the area that is known for its role in stress, actually became smaller and less reactive. And so the smaller the amygdala became, the less stressed people felt. And it didn't even matter what environment they were in or what the stressors were. Their amygdala shrank just by practicing the mindfulness techniques. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a short video that shows mindfulness in action, the practices that they put into place at actual school. So while you're watching this, if you feel inclined to do so, go ahead and post any comments you have of anything that stands out for you or catches your interest in this video. Go ahead and put it in the chat box.
How many of you had a hard time staying with breathing in and breathing out? You start thinking about a lot of things. So when I say, where are you? You say here. Where are you?
Here.
That's what time is it? You say now. What time is it?
Now.
Where are you?
Here.
What time is it?
Now.
It's not the dentist in 3 hours. It's not drumming session at home. It's not worried about whatever might be going on in that room next to us making a noise. It's about being in this spot, in our bodies, in this moment.
Now freeze in that statue. Now when you are in the statue, you can breathe and you can blink, but you are frozen, you can't talk. Now what you learn when you are frozen in the statue, in the circle, is you learn to not be someone who reacts to everything that happens to you. You gotta freeze. Sometimes outside in the playground, school, somebody will come with you, mess with you, you gotta learn how to block it out, be above it. This is your test right now. Here we go.
We're not mindful bodies. We're using mindful listening. Now we've done a mindful breathing. So when we do this, I want us to start with the most important part of mindfulness, which is the breath that we use. And today we're gonna open up something brand new. It's called mindful gratitude.
We did a session of yoga that focused on balance and breathing, and it's a good exercise because we find that we're not always able to maintain balance 100% of the time. So it's very important that we learn how to deal with the times when we lose our balance, when we are imbalanced, and learn how to utilize the tools that bring us back into balance. To share yoga with children It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
So you are leaders. I'm training young leaders right now. So you got to show them what it looked like. Get your A's, get out of this school, get on to the next thing. So here we go.
Breathe in, breathe out, release the stress and let it all out. Now right here, breathing in quietly, letting him speak.
I'm grateful for my brother dying because now he doesn't.
Ooh, wait. Deep moment. Stop. And all eyes should be on Malik. Jordan. I hear something from really a deep place in his heart. So we want to use our mindful heartfulness and be with him right now.
I'm grateful for my brother because he died and now he doesn't have to worry about anything.
So, you know, we love you very much, Malik. Putting all these things that I've done for years and putting it into a format where we'd be able to come into schools, pull students out for an hour and empower them through these different modalities, specifically mindfulness, yoga, positive hip hop, and art. And I wanted to use that as our format. How many of you had a hard time staying with breathing in and breathing?
So that was just a video that shows some of the ways that you can incorporate mindfulness in your life or in the classroom. And this is another mindfulness tool that you will have access to. They have embedded links that will take you to different activities. But basically it's a 2-in-1 tool where it's an anxiety scale, but you can use it for any type of emotion. You can use it as a feeling thermometer used to identify triggers or intensity of feelings. So as the numbers go up and the colors change, that's the intensity of your feelings. And then it also provides coping strategies for each zone on the 5-point scale. And then we put different traffic signs to help identify with what zone you're in based on the intensity of what you're feeling. Now, the strategies don't have to be the ones that are under each zone, but you can play around with them and see what works best for you. But how it works is that level 1 is an area where it's considered the rest area, and the type of strategies that you need here is when you need to feel recharged, when you need to re-energize. You might be feeling low energy or tired or not motivated. And so there's a meditation there to help you recharge your battery. And then there's also a link for karaoke and just dance videos to get you moving. And then the next thing on the thermometer, this is the ideal state of well-being to be in, and that's the go sign. This is what you want to maintain. And this is where you can handle stress and just go with the flow. So there is a tutorial video on how to have a gratitude jar, and then also a video on letting go of anxious thoughts that may cause distress and anxiety. And the video guides you through visualizing letting go of any distressing thoughts as if you're putting them on a leaf and watching them go down the stream. And then zone 3, or the slow zone, that is you want to yield because your nervous system, you're starting to feel signs of distress. So you might be feeling irritable or anxious or annoyed. And you want to bring your nervous system down before you go and fight, flight, or freeze. And the quickest way to do that is through breathing. And so Galaxy Breathing takes you through lots of different ways of breathing. And then there's a mind jar, which we'll show later. And then there's some soothing sounds to listen to. Now, zone 4 is the caution zone. This is the area that it represents that you're about to flip your lid and go into fight or flight. And so here you want to down regulate. And so the robot relaxation and the progressive muscle relaxation focuses on noticing where you hold your tension and then relaxing those muscles. And then lastly is the red zone, number 5, and that's where you need to stop. You've lost control. You need to re-regulate. A lot of times with kids, they can't regulate on their own, so we need to regulate with them, which is called co-regulation. A lot of times kids haven't learned this, and so we need to model that to them. And so there's a grounding technique that helps you stay or bring you back into the present moment. And then the breathing ball is also called a Hoberman ball. And that's a technique that teaches you how to pace your breathing in and out. So this is just something that you can keep handy for yourself or your kids to teach them to identify their feelings, how intense their feelings are, and then having some coping skills handy for when they start feeling that way.
All right, so I'm going to be going over and just highlighting the many benefits of breathing. And so really being mindful and having those slow and deep breaths. So just as Kathleen in the previous slides went extensively over the SNS and the PNS and how all of that is related, our slow and deep breathing moves us out of that SNS, so that stress response system, and then activates our PNS, which is that relaxation system. And then as you can imagine, I'm sure you've also experienced that those slow and deep breaths also lowers our blood pressure, our pulse rate, and our respiration. It also then increases our alpha brain waves, which allows us to be calm and alert during high stress times. And then it also elevates our mood, which releases serotonin, which is that happy hormone. And when that is released into our bloodstream, it then goes into the brain, which takes about 20 to 30 seconds for all of that to happen through your bloodstream and then up into your brain and starting to feel that serotonin. So one of the ways to practice that is with this visual here on the slide on how to breathe, and using this exercise 3, 4, 5 times in a row to really get that 20 to 30 seconds and help our brain register that serotonin. It also, that slow and deep breathing also detoxifies and then releases our toxin, as well as relaxes our mind, body, and just brings overall clarity. And so an example with this is through stressful or traumatic experiences or memories. So here is when the combination of that slow and deep breathing are really beneficial for you. That slow breathing allows our entire system, so our mind, our emotions, our body, to slow down enough. So then when we encounter really a stressful event or memory that comes so quickly that our system might not be able to process it as well, that slow breath really helps us integrate those pieces of that stressful or traumatic memory. And then with the deep breathing, so that's going to be releasing that stuck emotional energy that you feel in the body from a stressful or a traumatic event. So again, in the combination of that slow and deep breathing, you'll block the stress hormones from being released. And then it activates the PNS to induce a more relaxation response and kind of in state. And so another way that you can also practice, in addition to many other techniques that we'll be showing, and Kathleen had briefly mentioned this, is the Huberman ball. And so you gotta hold it up, Paula. So And also in the self-care scale that Kathleen just went over, there is a tutorial that you can click on and it will show you how to properly use it. So I'll model it, but also how to use it in that tutorial, as well as if you don't have access to a Huberman ball, it helps as an overall visual. So what this tool is just to give an additional visual for our students or adults in visualizing your breaths going in and out. So what's recommended for children, since they're not able to hold their breath as long as adults, or don't maybe have as much practice with it, is that it's 4 counts in and then 6 counts out. And so I'm going to use this ball to just represent what that looks like. So I'll count in my head for 4 going out and 6 going, no, I apologize, 4 going in and 6 going out. So. And then out. So again, it just gives another great visual representation. And we recommend that you practice this with your child. And as Kathleen said before, a lot of our students don't know how to self-regulate or, to be mindful. And so being able to practice together and model that is incredibly beneficial, as well as it's found that when you breathe as a group, that actually syncs everyone's heartbeats together to have that same rhythm. And so collectively you have a similar energy throughout the room. All right, another activity to practice that slow and deep breathing, and I won't go through all of it, but I'll just briefly describe it and you can practice on your own, is this heart tap exercise. So heart tapping is tapping is a form of acupressure that helps calm your nervous system, rewire your brain, and then restore your body's energy. So in this exercise, what you would do is you take your index and your middle finger and you would tap the center of your chest as you breathe and imagine the positive energy flowing through your body. And then in the end of this activity, it brings in that mindfulness of anchoring the experience with positive affirmations. So for example, or just as more of a explanation, is that tapping sends a calming signal to the emotional center of your brain. And it also stimulates the vagus nerve that Kathleen was speaking of earlier, which then slows down your heart rate. And then adding that physical touch of your fingers to your chest releases that oxytocin, which is the more love or bonding hormone that we experience. And then it reduces the stress hormone as well, which ends up calming us. So the positive attitude breathing. So this is another breathing exercise that creates a mind-body connection by simply placing your hand over your heart as you concentrate on a positive feeling or positive affirmations, such as I inhale peace, I breathe out tension. And it really gives you the opportunity to say that numerous times in a row and notice any differences that you begin to feel, any sensations that you have, and allows you to expand your focus.
Okay, so this is a video on super brain yoga, and I have to give you a quick disclaimer here. We're not suggesting that this is a fix-all for every ailment or behavior, but it is a strategy that you may want to experiment with or add it to your toolbox if you think it's beneficial. But it has shown to be beneficial to many people that you'll see in this news clip.
In high definition. This is CBS 2 News at 5.
We're accustomed to exercise to improve the body. Well, not so much me, but Laura is. But what about a workout to improve the brain?
This is interesting. It's sort of like calisthenics for the cranium. CBS 2's Jennifer Savi has been looking into who is doing this 3-minute-a-day brain training, and we're fascinated by it, Jen.
Yeah, well, people say it makes them smarter, Paul and Laura. It's called Super Brain Yoga, an exercise intended to pump up cell and neuron activity in the brain. Alzheimer's patients, seniors looking to stave off memory loss, and kids in classrooms are among those who say doing it makes them smarter.
Now take your right hand, cross over the left side.
A medical doctor in Los Angeles prescribes an exercise.
Inhale going down, exhale coming up.
Not so his patients grow stronger, but so they become smarter.
We probably had a C average. I taught him these exercises, and by the next semester, he was a completely different kid. His grades had gone to almost straight A's.
Take your left hand.
A teacher in Malibu saw similar improvements in her learning disabled kids.
We have kids that have autism, kids that have Asperger's, all different needs.
They were assigned the movements.
Inhale, exhale.
Not to shape their muscles, but to sharpen their minds.
Yeah, we get smarter and smarter.
Good, Brandon. One child used to just stand there and not move. And now I'll ask him to do something and he'll look at me and he'll just take a moment and then he'll do it.
A teacher, a doctor.
And then you take the right hand and place it over to the left earlobe.
A Yale neurobiologist.
Yes, I do it every day.
And an occupational therapist.
Inhale, blow up.
I think this might be the key to help unlock these children.
All are among those experimenting with an exercise to increase intelligence called Super Brain Yoga.
I would say the Super Brain Yoga is a fast, simple, drug-free method of increasing mental energy.
I learned Super Brain Yoga from Master Choa Koksui, and I noticed in my own life it made a difference. Like I wasn't spending as much time looking for my keys or walking into a room and forgetting why I was there.
Yale neurobiology researcher Jean Eng says Super Brain Yoga stimulates neural pathways in the brain by activating acupuncture points on the earlobe.
In modern terms, the brain is actually lateralized. So holding the left ear actually activates the right brain, and holding the right ear actually activates the left brain.
Eng says after doing the squatting sequence, EEG scans show the right and left hemispheres of the brain are synchronized.
And you're going to bring it across your body.
Reina Corturba doesn't need charts and graphs to be convinced. She saw the change firsthand in one 7-year-old student diagnosed as emotionally disturbed and dyslexic.
Could barely hold a pencil, could barely write. He's now in a regular ed classroom without an aide. He's one of the top children in his class.
This is a photo of a boy with autism and his mother who says he was transformed after starting Super Brain Yoga.
And he would bite, headbutt me, kick me, punch me, run against the wall, headbutt the wall. Since he started the exercise, he's not had one outburst.
For a culture accustomed to exercising to get fit, not get smart, yoga for brain power may seem harebrained.
I tell the patients and I tell the parents, you know, this looks a little bit hokey, but the proof's in the pudding, and I've seen it work.
Yes, it does seem strange, but the effects are so worth the effort. It's like 5 minutes a day. And once I got myself the discipline to do it, it made such a dramatic effect in my life that it's like it's a no-brainer.
Researchers say Super Brain Yoga can help anyone of any age increase their intelligence. The exercise is rather easy to learn, so if you're interested, you can go to our website.
Okay, so just to give you a little bit of science behind the movements, the left and right brain gets synchronized through this by crossing your arms and pressing on the meridian acupressure points. And they communicate with each other, the logic of the left brain and the senses and emotions of the right brain. And the acupressure points in the ears activate the parasympathetic response. And the squatting stimulates the vagus nerve by putting pressure on the abdomen when you squat. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a slide that about biofeedback. Biofeedback is a technique that trains people how to slow their heart rate by pacing their breathing, relaxing their muscles while they're focusing on positive thoughts. And the goal of biofeedback is to bring your brain, your mind, your body, and your emotions into balance. And part of biofeedback is HRV, which stands for heart rate variability, which is the change in the distance between one beat of the heart and the next. And it measures heart rhythm patterns between the sympathetic nervous system that accelerates heart rate and the parasympathetic nervous system that slows down heart rate. And so you can see on the screen with negative feelings such as frustration, the beat between heartbeats is more erratic, but when you shift more into feelings of appreciation, it becomes more fluid. And that's what happens when you slow your breathing patterns down to like 5 or 6 breaths per minute, when we normally breathe about 12 to 16 as adults and even more for children. And it's the slower exhale that triggers this relaxation response. So what we're shooting for is we want high HRV, and that's the best indicator of your vagal tone, which means that you have greater variability between your heartbeats, which means you respond to stress better, versus low HRV or low vagal tone means that you have a harder time bouncing back from hardship or distress. Now, this is really interesting. This is, it shows how our emotions are reflected in our heart rhythms. And just by reflecting on a positive emotion or imagining a pleasurable memory, it can actually alter our HRV towards coherence. And coherent heart rhythms occur when our two branches of the automatic nervous system are in sync. So like in the previous slide, when we're relaxed, you have that rhythmic fluid heart rate, you're in high coherence. And when you're in low coherence, there's that the heart patterns appear very erratic and irregular. But this is an electrocardiogram. It was a study conducted of a 15-year-old boy and his dog, Mabel. And at the top is the electrocardiogram of the heart rate of the dog. And it starts out, you'll see that it's the heart rate's pretty erratic, and that's when Josh and Mabel are in separate rooms. And you'll see in the middle, Josh enters the room, and you'll see that when he comes into the room, he sits down and he focuses on his feelings of love and appreciation for his dog. There's no physical contact between him and his dog, but you'll see that their heart beats, their heart rhythms actually match each other's. They sync with one another. And so it demonstrates how feelings of gratitude alter not only our own biochemistry, but it affects those around us, even our pets. And then you can see that when Josh left the room, it again, the heartbeats then became more erratic. So mindfulness practices that focus on gratitude and compassion can alter the energy not only in our body, but in the energy around us. Now, we don't have time to take you through this activity, but this is heart rate variability training. That is an experience that you can actually feel and experience coherence. There's a company called Heart Math, and they have a tool called an M Wave. I left it in the other room, but it allows you to regulate your nervous system. It helps you to control your HRV and measure your vagal tone. And what it does is it attaches to your ear, and then you plug it into your phone, which so that you can see the app, and it tracks your heart rate and calculates your HRV on the app. And it measures, it gives you a breathing prompt, and every 5 seconds, and then it graphs your HRV. And then it gives you a score at the end of your session, so that with more practice, you can improve your vagal tone. If it's something that you're interested in doing, you can monitor your own heart rate with a fitness tracker, like if you have an Apple Watch, or you can use a heart rate monitor app. There's one I recommend called the Stress Doctor app, and it guides you through a deep breathing exercise, and then it provides biofeedback by graphing your pulse as you breathe. And what I mean by a breathing prompt, this, if we can just press this video really quick to show how you can slow your breathing. This is a 5-second breathing where you breathe in, you hold, and you breathe out.
Okay, I do notice we're at the 4:50, so we're gonna kind of move a little bit more quickly through these next slides, but we did want to share some more tools with you that you can either use yourself or with your child. So the first one is called Sitting Still Like a Frog, and this is a free download, and you can stream the audio, or you can download it. But it goes through auditory relaxation exercises that help improve concentration and impulsivity. And it's geared towards ages 5 through 12. So it's actually a good one for kids. The other one is the Super Brain Yoga, which we talked about before. So this video will take you through the exercises, the exercise itself. And then underneath that is a link to different resources, to a different resource that has a variety of mindfulness activities. They are geared towards the classroom, but since our students' classroom is now in the home, parents, you might find this helpful as well. And the next slide. Oh, you don't have to play it. That's okay. We're gonna, thanks. Okay, this might also look familiar from our December session. So each box or frame, the star, is a link to a different mindfulness strategy. They are all YouTube videos, so it's really easily accessible for you and your child. We're not gonna click on any right now, but they all take you to different videos and that have visuals for mindfulness. That's really nice.
Alrighty. And so this one is another technique that you can do throughout your day. It doesn't require any additional things. It's called a mindful minute or a halt break. And really all you're gonna do is you're gonna stop your current activity, acknowledge the way that you are feeling, and accept the feeling is there, because those feelings, we can't make those go away, but also acknowledge that it's only temporary and that it will pass. And then the L stands for letting go of that need to control your thoughts or your situation, and giving yourself the opportunity and allowing yourself and your body to relax. And then practicing that mindful breathing of taking 3 to 5 deep breaths, focusing on the sensations in your body during each exhale and imagining the tension is releasing with each breath. And so this is a really nice one to use. You know, if you're in your car before you're going into a meeting or going back home, or if you just have an extra 30 seconds in your day between, you know, just making it a habit to do this, it can really help work into your day. And then the next one on here is mind in a jar. So basically what you're doing for this one is you're imagining that your mind is a jar and it's filled with water. And each time you have a new thought, glitter is placed into the jar, poured into the jar. And so it wants you to become aware of how these thoughts and feelings begin to stir up. So for example, if you have your mind in a jar and your mind is swirling with thoughts, just picture that your glitter jar is swirling around. And you might notice that your mind is filling up with those distractions, and it makes it hard for you to see clearly because the glitter in your mind is stirring up. So really it wants you to focus, use the jar to help settle the glitter, focus on the positive intention, take calming breaths, and let that glitter settle back down in your mind. I'm not going to spend too much time because I'm going to let Lindsay show us really quick the mind jar.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to make a sensory jar at home. But in Hillary's previous slide, if you click on that picture, you can get access to a video of the mind jar. And so you can actually watch it if you don't have one at home. But if you would like to get creative like I did this weekend with my daughter, it's very easy to make these sensory mind jars at home. You have a lot of different bottle options. One of the best we've found is the Voss brand water bottle, just because it's not very expensive and it's cylinder and it's nice and sturdy. Also sensory bottles, that's what the label is, from Michael's craft store, is only $1.99. And then I made one just out of a regular plastic water bottle, and then also a spice container that I'll show you in a moment. Basically, it's about 3/4 light corn syrup, 1/4 water. If you choose to, you could put 1 or 2 drops of food coloring, depending on the darkness you would like. Then you add glitter, and the super glue is, once you get that consistency that you really like of the glitter, corn syrup, water ratio, you're going to want to super glue it so your lid does not come undone when you or your child is using it. And just to know that the more corn syrup you add or you include, the slower it takes the glitter to settle. So for students who are older, you may want to add more corn syrup, or for students who just have a longer attention span. So I made 2. One of them that was actually new for me, because I've made these many times in the past, was actually using it in an old spice container. So I just took off the label, and as you can see right now, all the glitter's at the bottom. But when I shake it up, it's going to swirl around and then slowly settle to the ground. And I thought this was pretty cool. If you have that super glue, you can, it's more mobile and you can actually take it around because it's smaller. And then here are, I'm not going to go through them, but just a handful of more very popular mindful apps for relaxation. And these are all free, which is the best option. And they're also, most of them are very appropriate for all students. There's one at the end or at the very bottom that is a little more gauged for teens, but we do just encourage you to look at them before your child watches it, and then also watch it with them so you can help answer any questions and you can do it together. Oops. I apologize. I do not have notes on this one, but as I'm remembering, this is mine as well. But due to time, this is just another strategy that you can use, my Pebble relaxation activity, and we'll let you take your time to read through it after the presentation.
Oh, okay. So we've given you a lot of information, and you might be wondering how or where to start. So this is an example of how you can start. With mindfulness, it really is important to set a daily practice, even if it's for only 2 minutes. That can be enough. maybe it's right before you get out of bed, or heck, it might even be in the shower because that's the only alone time you have if you're like a busy parent. So wherever and whatever works best for you. But we do encourage you to begin with a daily schedule and build in that consistency. The research says that neuroplasticity means that the brain has the ability to rewire itself, but only with consistent daily practice is when it has the most benefit. So you can start with these and build in practices, any practice that we've shared with you today that you feel comfortable trying.
This is a guided visualization that is called Taking in the Good, and it's based on Rick Hanson's work. It's really effective because neuroscience tells us that our brains have a negative bias to it's the result of evolution, where early humans were highly attuned to danger just to keep them for survival purposes. But the more that those neurons fired together, they wired together and became more of a negative bias, where we tend to see the negative more than the positive. And so a way to rewire our brains for a more positive bias is by taking in the good. And by doing this gratitude practice, you really focus on the things that bring you pleasure or joy. And it allows you to create new neural pathways in your brain and to strengthen them. And it's something as easy as just focusing on sensations of your experiences, like the vivid color of a sunset, or how alive it made you feel, or how thankful you were to be able to wake up to such beauty, or the opportunity to have a fresh start to the day. So it's those little things that bring you joy, and then you let it affect you by soaking it in and savoring it. And so that's just another practice called taking in the good.
Thank you. So for the very end, we're going to have one more mindful checkout. I do notice that it is 5 and we want to be respectful of time. I think that we can all stay a few extra minutes if there's any questions that anyone wants to ask us.